So we got raided out of our server, and we ended up having to quit. Not because we got raided out of the server, but because of the circumstances going on around that raid, that we just didn't have the foresight to actually realize what was going to happen once we started this server. So back when I first got V Rising through Stunlock, thank you guys for that again. Um, I was able to get the 5 day early pass to play. However, my team that I was going to play with did not get the 5 day early version, and so they weren't able to play, or so they thought. But it turned out they were able to play. They found out on day two into it that they were able to play. So day one through day three was us kind of like finding stuff out, figuring things out, and moving through the game slowly. We didn't watch any YouTube videos like that. We didn't get into cheesing the bosses or anything like that. We wanted to play the game naturally for itself. Now that's a bad idea when you decide to make when you decide to go on a hardcore or brutal server, as they call it, because brutal servers are raid PvP servers. I don't mind PvP. I don't mind raiding, but as your first server in a game that you know nothing about, I do not suggest it. Especially if you're not going to look up anything about raiding and and the PvP meta for the game. I don't suggest doing a raid server for your first server. And we should have probably packed it up and went to a different server at that point. But we decided to stick around. My friend said we could handle it, and I believed him when he said we could handle it until the events that transpired happened. Now, within a week, within actually the fourth day, we already had some sweats on our server that were already level 80. They were 80, I think 82, and at the same time, I was around 80. I was around 35 or 30. I think it was 35, and I just got into the fisherman bosses. So I was around 35. And the sweats on our server were camping people and were griefing them to make sure they couldn't progress. And sadly, I was one of those people that they were griefing. And so whenever I get to a boss, one of those sweats, I won't name him because I don't want to give him the notoriety or whatever, or any fame that comes with that by people whoever think that type of stuff makes them cool. But he decided he wanted to kill people at every boss so they couldn't progress, and that would make them better at everyone else at the game because they progressed further. What ended up happening that I found out was that there were two really well-known players from the PC version that came over. Well, one really well-known player from the PC version that came over, and he had one of his friends play with him, and they ended up playing together and getting all their information together, and like they found out that if you sold the bosses, that you could have an easier time sold the bosses, so they would pretty much cheese bosses that way. I didn't know that. My friends didn't know that, so we fought all the bosses in the beginning together and had a hard time fighting the bosses because the more people you have on bosses, the harder it is to fight these bosses. On top of that, we had to deal with we weren't having the time that we had before. Like, we used to play Rust. We used to have time like out the butt to play the game. So we were used to, raiding on Rust and being raided on Rust. We had people always online to be defensive and stuff like that. There were only a few times I've played Rust like continuously to the point where like I had to suffer through a raid and we defended against the raid and then were able to counter raid. And so like this raiding, like we were only able to raid on Saturdays and Sundays on this game on PlayStation. I don't know if it's different on PC, but on Saturdays and Sundays between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. you're able to raid. Well, these group of griefers, they targeted the highest level people the first week, and they teamed up with the people that were the highest level. So they teamed up with the people that came from PC, that had the more knowledge on the game, that were level 80 already, that helped them boost their gearing, boost their leveling by helping them beat bosses. Teamed up with them and started raiding the other higher player on the server, which pretty much ran them out the game because like once you raid them, they lose their base, they lose all their materials, they pretty much have to lose all their ability to repair their gear once they lose all the materials. So you kind of just got to stop playing or restart from scratch again. Like, it's kind of a bad situation, but I get it. It's a raid server. I get, So dealing with all of that going on, the griefing, the constant toxic environment that was on that server. Once again, I get it. PvP. Not complaining about the PvP, but the griefing people during bosses, it's kind of like if you're gonna have ethics, I'm gonna say why I say this. If you're gonna have ethics about one thing, have ethics about the entire thing in totality. So, After they griefed that person off the server, midweek I was around 50 something. I want to say I was around 58 or 59. And this is after they griefed the first week. They griefed the guy off the server the first week. Um, Midweek I was about 59 around Tuesday, and first they named me as the second target for the raid, which was the second week of the game being out, the game officially being out. They named me as the second target for the raid because the guy didn't like the fact that I was so high up. One of the guys didn't like the fact that I was so high up, so he wanted to name me as the next target because me and my group were the next highest group of people on the server. We were the only people that were coming up. So we're like, all right, we got to put it in gear if we're gonna get raided. Like, we want to be able to actually fight back. So we started pushing bosses. I get to the point where I'm pushing bosses solo because my friends don't have as much time as I do at the time. Because at the time I had nothing else to do. I didn't have any work to do at the time period. I had a good stretch of off period time, so I was good. I had more time to play, so I was knocking out bosses solo. I had help from one guy that was in that group. He wasn't a toxic person at the time. He turned out to be very toxic in the end. Turned out to be a complete butt. But in the beginning, he wasn't toxic. He helped me out. He helped our group kill one boss we were having a lot of trouble with. From that point on, however, he became a toxic asshole. Let's be real. Now, from there, I was going to kill a certain boss, one of the priests in the temples, and the guy that was griefing people for being, too close to catching up to them, he started attacking me while I was fighting the boss, and I'm like, okay, what the hell, this is happening again. Why is he at first I didn't get it at first, this is what he's doing, but then after seeing him at every boss I would go to, I was like, okay, he's just griefing me because he doesn't want me to try to catch up, and I'm the only person that's actually grinding these bosses, so I don't have a way to fight him. He's level 80. He's level 88, and I'm level 57. I'm level 50, 50, around the low 50s. So this keeps happening. This just continuously happens until I find a period where I could just boost past, and I get up to 70 something. And one day, and this is why I said, if you're gonna have ethics about one thing, keep your ethics about the whole situation at all. I made a comment earlier in the game cycle because they were trying to PvP with someone, and the person was complaining about PvP, and I was like, okay, it's a PvP server, don't complain about PvP if you pick the PvP server. It's a PvP server, understand that. From the moment I said that, they tried to use that against me when I said that, griefing people is a bad thing to do. Oh, it's a PvP server. You said it's a PvP server. Get off the server. You don't want to play on a PvP server. I was like, it's not that I don't like PvP. It's you're griefing people so they can't progress, so they can't fight against you. That's not PvP. That's you punching down. And you punching down is not making you a better PvPer. You're just being a crap person. That's honestly what that is. But they don't understand reason. They're illiterate little children, and I don't know what else to say about that, to be honest. They're probably grown men that are just very illiterate, to be honest. But I have nothing else to say about that. So, I end up going to, with one of my clan members, I end up going to one of the bosses, the second cathedral. We have to fight the second priest. And as we get there, two of their members, the one guy that griefed me before, and I guess his older brother or his clan master, whoever lets him, whoever he sucks off to get his information or whatever, were at that boss, and they had just killed that boss. And me and my clan member were like, oh, hey, they're here. I was like, dude, they just killed the boss. I was like, this is the dude that griefed me. I was like, nah, steal the boss. Now, if you're familiar with this game, you don't really steal bosses. Everybody can drink off the boss once the boss is down. But they were probably holding on for someone that, that probably died or something. Well, I jumped on the boss, which means they had to jump on the boss. Because if they didn't jump on the boss, they would lose out on the timer. And they wouldn't be able to they'd have to fight the boss again to get the boss again. So, at that point, they started calling me a boss sniper. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool, I'll be a boss sniper if you could, control, I wouldn't have to snipe a boss if you didn't, if your friend didn't have to grief me at every boss I was at before this. Every boss I was at before that, he was griefing me. He would kill me, at least twice a day while being 30 levels higher than me. There's no way I could fight back. So, and if y'all think that's, an acceptable thing, then that's cool with y'all. I don't care about your opinions. Let's be real. But if you're gonna have ethics about one thing, have ethics about the whole thing in total. Don't grief people and be mad about them, stealing boss from you because you griefed them at the bosses that they're trying to fight in the first place. Anyway, moving past that. So we catch up to like around 88. We're getting like 85, 86. We get in a few skirmishes with these guys. We're killing them. They're killing us. We're going back and forth. And then we get to the raid day, the actual raid day, which was last Saturday. On the raid day, we find out that there is another group that wants them off the server. So they're willing to join forces and raid them off the server. This was like probably 30 minutes before the raid actually the raids actually opened up. So we didn't know what was going on before that they were going to raid them. So we're just thinking, we're just going to have to defend, see what the best we can do. If we get raided out, that's fine. If we lose, that's fine. If we defend, that's cool. But we were expecting to lose, right? So we go ahead and we actually fight that raid, and it was an insane raid. I didn't record any of it because as soon as I hopped off the game, I went and hopped on Apex, and I forgot to save any footage from both games, which was really dumb because like it would have been a great compilation video. Anyway, so this next part is very hard to hear because we had no coordination, we had no shot callers, we had no consistent communication between anyone that was raiding to where we were actually fighting as a team. We were kind of just fighting everyone that was around. Well, not really fighting everyone that was around, but people were getting caught in other people's attacks. And me being mostly a person that casts skills and casts AoEs, that's supposed to sit in the back row. If you're in the way of my AoE, you're gonna be hit. And if I'm in the back row and you see me, you probably shouldn't be in the way of the AoE. Unless you're, opposite the side of the AoE, you're outside the radius. Which generally I try to cast, the smaller side towards the person that's, that might be on my alliance. And so this whole thing happens to where like we start the raid. This other guy is like, hey, and he's actually in this video, I recorded because I died at some part here. And he ended up picking up my bag, and I was like, nah, bro, like, at least some type of ethics has to be known here. Like, we usually do this type of thing on the server. Like, people have this ethics on the server. Like, if you die to a boss and the person didn't kill you, like, leave their bag. Like, if they died to the boss and you didn't kill them, leave their bag. If you killed them, cool, take my bag, whatever. But realize, I'm going to chase you down if you take my bag and you didn't kill me. And that's what ended up happening. But we ended up being cool after that because he ended up giving me my shit back. Well, I ended up killing him and taking my shit back and then giving him his shit back. Because I didn't really want his shit. I just wanted my stuff back. Well, so they were apparently going to, and this is the guy right here on the video, but they were apparently going to ally and raid against that first team that we were talking about, the first two teams. And so we were like, all right, cool, we'll join you guys and like go help us bolster our defenses and shit. So we go ahead and do the defense raid. First, they try to push my base, and they fail. The griefers, they try to push my base, and they fail. So the alliance pushes their base, and we fail. And a lot of people get mad because it's a lot of like I said, not a lot of actual talking going on, not a lot of communication. It's kind of like everybody talking over everybody. So it wasn't really a good spot to communicate. Well, after that whole thing happens, we kind of fall apart a little bit. They push my base again and they fail again. No, after that push on their base, and we failed, they went and pushed another base of someone else in the alliance, and they decimate that base within like minutes. And like I didn't understand like how they beat their base that fast because like when I found out about raiding and like I was gonna be a targeted raiding, I went on YouTube and I started looking up stuff. I was like, okay, how do I defend against a raid, and like how do I deal with this stuff? And so I made my entire base out of doors because that's what the video said. Do doors, have multiple doors on the first floor. Make drop spots. Use your banshees. Use your servants. All the stuff you can use to make your base as strong as possible, so that people can't just like walk up in your base and destroy your heart. So the base that they had got destroyed immediately. Like you pretty much could walk through their base within a few seconds if you wanted to. And I was like, how did you not know like you were that raidable, bro? Because the guy was mad that he was getting raided, and mad that it was so easy for him to get to his castle heart. And I was like, yeah, dude, like that's what's gonna happen if you like what? you didn't build a good base. Like, that was my entire thing. I was like, you didn't build a good base. How are you mad at people that you didn't build a good base? So he lost his castle, and we ended up pulling back and going to another. Well, going back to my base because they were going to go raid my base again. At this point, they've already used like 10 golems in total. They used 5 at my base first, and the 5 at the other guy's base, which they pretty much walked into. Now they're going to use another 5 on my base, and everyone that they used to pull golems, they ended up pulling. They ended up making like not even halfway through the base. They made like a fourth way to the base, and I unlocked the Banshee room, and the Banshees decimated all of their golems. They couldn't do it. They started running back out. Well, that let me get time to go ahead and heal my base because it was like the last few seconds of that. They couldn't push the second day. All right, cool. I mean, push the first day completely. So they stopped and they were like, oh yeah, you guys pulled all these people together, blah blah. You lost the base, blah blah blah. And I was like, cool, whatever. Like, we defended, so like we're good. We just need more materials because we broke all of our stuff during this whole raid. So this is where the whole entire scenario shifts, because me and my 4 guys, well, me and my 3 guys. And it's me, Sin, and Blood Titan at the time. Our guy German Bratwurst, one of our friends, he's German. He doesn't really play the game as much, but he came in at the last second on Sunday, and he was like, "What can I do to help, guys?" So me, Sin, and Blood Titan, we grabbed everything we could and farmed that entire Saturday night into Sunday night right before the raid. We farmed Ghost Yarn. We farmed power cores. We made a legendary weapon. We made two more unique weapons. Like, we made a bunch of stuff, dude. And we had a lot of extra stuff left over to where we could farm and be good. And I come back because I had to leave to go to the restroom like right before the raid started. I come back, and they're preparing to raid us again. They're like already packed up outside the raid, and we get invited into the to the Alliance chat. And Sin was already in the Alliance chat, and all I hear is, "We didn't know Sin was like, we didn't know that you guys expected us to fund you guys with the resources to repair your gear. Like, we only had enough to we farmed enough to repair gear, but we didn't know we had to do you guys as well." And one guy was like, "Well, yeah, like, I didn't think that." I'm like, wait a minute. Y'all didn't farm any gear resources yourselves to repair your gear? Like, realize they're going to raid everybody. They're not just raiding. And so it was kind of like, all right, cool. Sin was like, all right, we have enough materials that we can, help people repair their shit. How many people do you need to repair the shit for? And so it's like, I think 4 of them showed up, and it was like 8 of them at first. So 4 of them showed up. The other 8 left. They were like, oh yeah, we're not gonna be part of this because we don't have the stuff to repair or whatever, blah blah. And so we had stuff to repair their gear. We had more stuff to repair. We had stuff to repair at least 9 people's stuff. We only had to repair 4, so that ended up working out a bit, I guess. So these guys, the other guys, the 8 that left, were like, all right, yeah, we're not gonna be a part of this, blah blah blah. We're like, all right, cool, whatever, if this doesn't work out, everybody's getting raided off the server. That's pretty much what it is, because this is what this group is gonna do. They're gonna raid everyone they can until they clear the server out, and they're gonna be left playing the game by themselves, which doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. So now we're and they're just doing this because they want to claim themselves to be the best in the server. Except for the fact that they aren't, the ones that are claiming the best to be in the server aren't actually doing anything. They're just sucking on the teat of the ones that actually have the shards, the ones that are actually good at PvP. Because if they went up against the ones that actually had the shards and the ones that actually good at PvP, they would lose themselves. But that's neither here or there. So after this whole thing goes down, we do the raid. It takes them an hour to raid us down. It takes them an hour to beat us. They failed 3 attempts to push through. And so, in large part, thanks to the Banshee rooms wrecked their golems so many times. But it took them an hour to raid us down. We ended up getting castle busted exactly at 9:05 or something like that. And at that point, we're like, yeah, whatever, it's whatever happens. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna cry about it. I came into this knowing that like we probably weren't gonna win this. I thought we were gonna lose this yesterday, and I was gonna go play Apex right after that. Turns out didn't happen, and then I was able to stick around and play a bit more. Like, but I figured at this point like nobody else farmed for their shit to repair their gear. We were the ones that had to do all the farming. We stayed up for like freaking 20 hours farming. Like we did shifts in farming. Like I don't understand like how they expected us to be the ones that have to fund all their stuff when this is happening to all of us. Like they weren't just targeting me next. It was and they had to target. They said who they were going to target next, and those people quit the game. They quit the game like after they said they were targeted, and I was like, bro, y'all are wild. Like how do y'all like not put your all into this if y'all are trying to play this? But whatever. So we got rated off the server, and there's nothing we can really do about it because, like I said, they had a whole week and a half ahead of us to where they had resources. They were boasting they had 40 golems and stuff like left over that they could use. They had to use like 20 of them on my base alone on the second day, and they had to use 10 of them on my base alone the first day. So like they had to use a lot of resources to get our stuff down, and then when they finished beating us, they got all of our resources, which we had resources to make golems too, but we couldn't really use them because we didn't have a plan of attack or anything. Honestly, if you're gonna get into this game, don't go into a raid server on your first server if you have no experience in this game. I don't recommend it. Go on a regular PvP server. That's what I should have did when my friend said, nah, it doesn't matter. I'd be like, nah, let's go on a PvP server, regular PvP server, and just do the game regularly. The bosses are easy on a regular server anyway. I switched over to a regular server to see how the bosses were, and bro, I was smashing through bosses like way crazy. But I do not recommend playing on a hardcore server as your first time playing this game at all. Oh boy, it was a fun experience, I'm not gonna lie. But if you do not have people that have the time, and that was another thing that was a big issue, was that we didn't have the time. Like I said before, like if you gave us this game like a year ago, where we all just had like the time to play, we didn't have like much more responsibilities aside from playing the game, you would have had us like, we would have been the perfect fucking resource finders. We would have been on top of this game. We'd have been on top of the meta and everything. But we all just have a lot of stuff to do now. Like we have jobs, we have families, we have things that we need to take care of in life, and this game isn't really one of them. So like a brutal server does not fit into that. But that was pretty much it for this video. If you guys stuck through all that, thank you guys for watching. I don't recommend a hardcore server if you don't have time. That's just it for me. And if you do have time and you do want to play hardcore server, try to stay away from the toxic douchebags that want to grief people. They are there. Well, on PlayStation they exist because for some reason PlayStation players have this hate boner for like people. I don't know. They tried to start drama with everyone. Like one guy was like just fighting the fishing boss, and he asked for help because he couldn't beat it. And the griefer guy that was like one of the main griefers went over there and killed him. The fishing boss is level 35, bro. The guy was barely 30, and dude is 92 now. Like, I don't understand it. Like, the mindset behind these people, bro, like, it's ridiculous. And these are the only games they can thrive in because they have all the time in the world to play these games. And I'm like, this is really, it's a really weird mindset to be able to do stuff like that and just think you're better than people because you have the most time to play these type of games where, it doesn't really matter. Like on a regular PvP server, they probably wouldn't be able to do crap like that because everybody they'd be able to keep their materials and be able to compete every day. Whereas on the hardcore server, you don't get to keep your materials after you're being raided. Like you don't get to raid on a regular PvP server. You just lose whatever's in your inventory, which is fine. Like I'm cool with that. But a hardcore server is not for me at this point in time. Brutality server, whatever you want to call it, is not for me at this time. Maybe in the future if I don't have a job or a wife or which hopefully is not anytime soon. If I don't have a job, if I don't have like bills and stuff, like maybe a brutality server in that type of future, but this is not the timeline for that for me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. It's been forever. Peace out.